You know that sacred ritual of the business world, the brainstorm? We all treat it like it's this amazing engine for innovation. But what if I told you it's actually the place where your company's best ideas go to die, drowned out by something we're all taught to ignore in business: emotion? Let's get into it.
So just think back for a second. The last big brainstorming meeting you were in, did the smartest, most data-backed idea actually win? Or did the idea that came from the most senior person, or maybe just the loudest and most confident person, did that idea carry the day? We're about to find out exactly why that happens, and it's not what you think.
All right, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the core problem, the brainstorming fallacy. Then we're going to dive into some fascinating neuroscience about how our brains really make decisions. From there, we'll see how that all goes haywire in a group. And then, the good part, we'll lay out a brand new playbook for making much, much smarter choices.
To really get what's wrong here, let's start with a story. A scene that I'm willing to bet is going to feel pretty familiar to a lot of you.
Okay, so imagine a tech company called Innovate Next. In the room, we've got Mark. He's the charismatic VP, you know the type, super confident, everyone kind of orbits around him. And then we have Sarah, a more junior data analyst. She's not the loudest person in the room, but she's found something in the data that could change everything. So, the meeting's buzzing with all this big talk about massive, explosive growth. And in the middle of all that, Sarah finds her moment. She speaks up and presents her idea. It's not flashy, it's not sexy, it's a small, niche feature for their most loyal customers. But here's the thing, it is backed by a mountain of data.
And you can just feel the air go out of the room. Mark, the VP, he kind of chuckles and dismisses it as tinkering. He immediately pivots the conversation back to those big, explosive growth ideas. And just like that, it's over. The room's emotional current follows the leader, and Sarah's idea is politely but completely suffocated. This wasn't a failure of logic, it was a failure of the entire process.
So why did that happen? To really understand it, we've got to dig into a huge myth about how we think. And this, right here, is the absolute core of the problem.
For literally centuries, we've been told that the ideal decision maker is a cold, rational machine, that emotion is a bug, a flaw in the system that we have to suppress. Well, modern neuroscience has shown us that is completely fundamentally wrong. The reality is, we don't think in spite of our emotions, we actually think because of them. Emotions aren't the enemy of reason, they're the very foundation of it.
And this all comes down to something called the somatic marker hypothesis. The neuroscientist Antonio Damasio made this breakthrough discovery. He found that when people suffer brain damage that severs the connection between their logical and emotional centers, they become incapable of making good decisions. They could list pros and cons forever, but they couldn't feel the right choice. That gut feeling we all talk about, it's not magic. It's your brain running a super fast analysis, using emotional tags from every experience you've ever had to tell you, yes, this is good, or no, stay away. It's thinking with your feelings.
Damasio himself put it perfectly. Feelings aren't just this shady side of reason, they're an essential tool for it. So think about that. It means that all that logic and reason we use to defend our choices, a lot of the time, that's just our brain's PR department writing a press release for a decision our emotional gut has already made.
Okay, so if one person's decisions are driven by this powerful emotional compass, what on earth happens when you put 10 of those people in a room together for a high-pressure brainstorm? Well, it gets messy.
The whole thing doesn't become more rational. Oh no, it becomes a battle of competing gut feelings. And the idea that wins isn't the best one, it's just the one that best reflects the emotional state and the power dynamics of the group at that exact moment. It's basically a snapshot of the office social ladder.
And here is the fatal flaw in the whole design. A classic brainstorm just throws 4 totally separate things into a blender and hits puree. You're trying to generate ideas, present them, evaluate them, and, this is the big one, compete for social status all at the same time. It is a recipe for disaster. Because the second someone says an idea out loud, it's not an idea anymore. It's their idea. And attacking the idea feels like you're attacking them.
This whole chaotic process just opens the door for a minefield of psychological traps. You get anchoring bias, where the first couple of ideas mentioned end up dominating the entire discussion. And then you get the really dangerous one, groupthink. That's where people just stop disagreeing to keep things feeling nice and harmonious. The system is literally designed to produce bad outcomes.
So, how do we get out of this mess? Well, the answer isn't to pretend emotion doesn't exist. That's impossible. The answer is to create a new process. One that honors our emotional brains, but channels those emotions in a productive way. Let's call it the separation principle.
Here's the new playbook, step by step. First, no more talking. Everyone generates ideas on their own, in silence. It's called brainwriting. Step 2, you collect all the ideas and make them anonymous. You separate the idea from the person. Then you cluster similar ideas together. Step 3, you evaluate those clusters using a clear, structured system. And finally, step 4, you vote, anonymously. Every single step is designed to pull the ego out of the equation.
Now, for that structured evaluation part, there's an amazing tool called the 6 thinking hats. The idea is simple. The whole group puts on the same imaginary hat at the same time. So with the white hat, everyone only talks about the facts and data. But then, and this is key, you put on the red hat. And this is where you explicitly invite gut feelings and intuition. It gives that powerful emotional compass we talked about a legitimate seat at the table. Then you systematically go through the risks, the benefits, and creative new angles. It forces you to look at an idea from every possible direction.
And when it's finally time to make a choice, you get rid of that old, flawed way of just talking until everyone kind of agrees. Instead, you use anonymous dot voting. Everybody gets, say, 3 little stickers, and you put them next to the ideas you truly believe in. It's so simple, but it completely changes the outcome. You get a real picture of the group's collective intelligence, not just the opinion of the most powerful person.
What comes out of this new process is something completely different. It's not just better, it's more powerful.
See, you don't walk out of the meeting with a single winning idea that was chosen based on politics. Instead, you leave with 1 to 3 really strong, well-vetted hypotheses. The meeting isn't the final decision anymore. It's just the start of the real discovery process.
You then take these hypotheses out to what you could call the proving ground. You test them against reality. You can build a quick prototype, run a simple A/B test on your website, or try a pilot program with just one team. You let real-world data, not a gut feeling in a conference room, be the ultimate judge.
And this fundamentally changes everything. Decision-making stops being a game of who's the best talker or the most persuasive person. It becomes a collaborative, scientific journey to find out what really works. Let's be honest, the old whiteboard free-for-all is a relic. It favors charisma over actual insight. It's time we move to a system that creates real psychological safety. A system that gives the best ideas and the quiet people like Sarah, who often have them, a real fighting chance. So, that really leaves us with one last thing to think about. Right now, in your team, in your company, what brilliant, game-changing idea is sitting there, unspoken, just waiting for a better, smarter process to finally be heard?